celebrating the power of possibility.
I'm Bob Thomas, and I believe anything is possible.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill, and these are great stories about great people whose lives prove that anything is possible. My guest today is Bob Thomas. Let's go back to the year 1990.
Yeah.
1990. And I have to start here. Folks, this is really important. This show is really important to me because I want to start this show by saying thank you. 1990 was an interesting year. I had lost everything I had in Hurricane Hugo. I was running a radio station in the Virgin Islands, and I washed ashore here in Knoxville. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a car. I would ride the bus looking for work. I happened upon WIVK, and I didn't happen upon it. I followed the industry, and at that time, WIVK had the largest market share of any radio station in America. It was unheard of. I would read the trades, and in Radio and Records magazine, they would have their drive time dominators.
Yeah.
These were the top radio hosts for market share across the country. And smack dab in the middle of that list, there was Claude Tomlinson and there was Ed Brantley, but right in the middle of that list was Bob Thomas and this radio station WIVK. And I've always believed that if you want to get better, you got to play with better people. So I go in, it's a long story, but they end up hiring me on a 90-day temporary basis during the holidays. And here I am. I show up at this country radio station. There's nobody like me in the building. You know this to be true. And Bob, you just straight up embraced me right out of the gate. I mean, right out of the gate. Like you would ask me if I was hungry. You'd say, I'm gonna go get some breakfast, you know. And I remember I gotta tell this story as we launch because you helped me realize possibility. I'm writing music. I'm an artist and I'm writing music, and you took an interest in what I was doing. You were like, tell me about your creativity. I'm writing this music, I'm writing for all these people, I'm sending out demos. And I said, I don't have a dual cassette deck to make duplicates of my demos so that I could send them out. You look at me and you go, And as I remember, you show up the next day with a dual cassette deck and you go, here.
Well, you were punching these, you were doing this thing. It was going to take forever.
You realized the possibility, but just right out of the gate, like you believed in me. But you believe in dreams and possibility anyway. What happened? I've wanted to ask you for years. First of all, I've wanted to say to you for years, thank you, like from the bottom of my heart. But what happened?
I don't like people being pigeonholed into they can only do this or that or the other. And I also like to see the underdog have his day, have his chance to do the best he can do. And whether it was you or anybody, there's been many, many people I wanted to see them succeed. And I think you've proven to the world you could do that. So it's turned out well.
So my music has been heard by millions and millions of people. The song in The Preacher's Wife, Who Would Imagine a King? The Preacher's Wife remains the biggest selling gospel record of all time. It's 16 times platinum. I've worked with many different artists. Many of the demos that got to different artists to record my music were duplicated on that. And so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
How'd you get that way? Where did this, because you've done a lot of different things. Where does your story start?
You know, my dad, I was born in a little coal mine town called Appalachia, Virginia, and we moved to Knoxville when I was 5 or 6, and my dad had 2 children, a wife, and $50 in his pocket and no job. And so He worked at a gas station on McCalla, which is now MLK, and that's what he did when we first moved here. And then he started his own business. I saw my dad start many businesses and sell them to the people he hired to work for him. And I saw him believe in people, and I saw what can happen when you start your own opportunities, if you will, where you make things happen. And because it's scary when you try to do something on your own. It's easier just to work for other people, but if you can, something you really want to do and you feel you can do it, you don't want people telling you you can't. Because many times in my life and everybody's life, people say, well, you know, that's not, you're not going to be able to do that. And that just made me, that put more fire in me.
When somebody tells you you can't.
Oh yeah, it drives me crazy.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel.
So you're growing up here in Knoxville. You come from a coal mining town, humble beginnings. Where did that take you?
You know, I loved sports when I was growing up, so I played basketball, baseball, and football, and then played baseball in college and basketball. But I was invited to come over to a radio station one day, and you know this well. I got there, I watched what they did, that they were creating by the moment, and that was exciting to me. And I hung around there all the time. And this one midday jock, does this sound familiar? Took an interest in me, and he would help me at night make tapes and stuff to send out.
Who was that?
It was Frank Irwin. He was the voice of Cracker Barrel, the old country store.
Yeah.
And he's still in Nashville producing jingles and things, and a great friend. And he helped me get my first job, which was introducing preachers all day on a Sunday in Maryville. But I loved it, the fact that I was doing it. And once you give me a chance, watch out. If you let me put my foot in the door, you're going to have to move out of the way. And it grew from there, and opportunities arose. There were many people that gave me opportunities they probably shouldn't have.
So you get a job in Maryville introducing preachers. I did the same thing. And that little 10 seconds I had to announce the preacher, I tried to make the most of it.
Oh yeah, there's the right Reverend so-and-so.
So how do you end up building, you've had several careers, some of them simultaneously, but you are a legend in broadcasting. How did you find your way there?
You know, a right place, the right time is a lot of it maybe, but I worked my tail off anytime I could. Bobby Denton hired me in 1975, and Jim Dick took an interest in me. Sound familiar?
Very.
And I remember the girl that was doing middays left, and I did it for like 3 months. And Bobby walked in one day and said, Jim Dick wants you to have this job, so I guess you got it.
That's classic Bobby.
And then he closed the door, and I went, oh, that's great. You know, but it was, once I had that opportunity, then I started coming up with ideas for the show, how to change it, how to make it better, how to, you know, and Jim Dick loved some of those things. That. And so it grew from there, and also following Claude Tomlinson, which was...
Right, you had to be right.
Oh, or you'd heard about it from him. And it was a wonderful place at the right time. We didn't know it was a perfect storm until after the fact, really, to where we were the highest rated radio station in America, all formats, all everything. It was amazing.
What was the market share at that time?
I had a 37 share midday. Claude had 41%. So 37% of the people that had their radio on were listening to me. It was amazing. And all of East Tennessee, because we went into 5 states.
What was the secret sauce? What makes a show go?
Being yourself, being a personality. Don't try to be phony. Be who you are. Talk about the things that are important to the people. And I think a lot of downfall of radio today is that they don't do that.
Right.
They just
copy and paste.
Yeah.
So you build this tremendous career in radio. I mean, you guys were rocking and rolling. One of your best buds, Ed Brantley, just dominant. And then what?
After 20 years, I thought 20 years of doing anything was enough. And I didn't want to be a one-trick pony. There were so many things I wanted to do. And so I decided to leave and move to Los Angeles. And everybody thought that was the craziest thing they'd ever heard.
I remember this. We were having these conversations as you were beginning to transition, and you were laying you laid the groundwork for years.
Oh, I did, yeah, true.
It was one of the smartest things I had ever seen, because most people will just go to LA, they don't know what they're gonna do, they don't have a financial foundation. And I watched you, I'm just paying attention from the sidelines. You were doing real estate, you were doing all sorts of things, but you were building up cash reserves so that you could move to LA and not die in LA.
Exactly.
Am I right about that?
No, you're right. I was one of the 4 guys that started the East Coast Hockey League. So I had the Knoxville Cherokees with a friend, and after 8 years, I sold my part, and I knew I had all that in reserve. So I had a 4-year plan of going to Los Angeles to try to act and write and produce and things like that. And I figured I had enough money for 4 years. Of course, I ended up staying there 16 years, but that was the plan. That it was like, I thought it was like going to college all over again. If you could go there in 4 years and figure it out, see if you can have success. Don't ever regret not trying something. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad I did try all the things I tried, because I'd be sitting back there right now going,
I wish.
Man, I wish I'd done.
So what happened when you hit Hollywood?
Well, I get there, and it's tough. That's a tough town. But
What was tough?
Being accepted. But we'd gotten there, and my wife and I had a lot on she was a TV anchor. She'd already been going back and forth in LA and done movies and stuff, and I'd done movies and plays in the South. So we had a resume that where most people come to LA don't have that. And it was tough to get an agent and everything for a while, but once we got started, she started booking a lot of commercials. I was fortunate enough to get involved with Peter Berg on Friday Night Lights. And I actually sent him when they were putting Friday Night Lights together, I sent him a tape of me doing a Central High School ball game where Todd Helton was the quarterback.
Oh, wow.
and he loved my play-by-play. So they hired me to be slamming Sammy Stans, which is a real character, in the movie Friday Night Lights. And it was just incredible that I got to do that. And so success from there, and led, little thing here and there. And it was, luckily we were able to do things, but our son, Jake, who was 7 or 8, he's the one that caught fire when an agent met him in LA, and all of a sudden he's booking things, and now one of us has to always be with him. And then Jake's career took off.
Talk a little bit about Jake's career.
Okay, Jake, between the ages of 6 and 8, he did 16 national commercials as the star of the commercials, and was the biggest booker for his agency. And then he had an audition, it's hard to go from commercial to theatrical jobs in LA. A lot of people don't understand that, but he got Third Rock from the Sun with John Lithgow, and he was on it. And then he did Touched by an Angel, which was a big show, and it was their Emmy episode. And Steven Spielberg saw that, and then Spielberg wanted to see him for artificial intelligence. He shot The Cell with Jennifer Lopez and Vince Vaughn, and he got on this career path, and then Disney saw him and hired him for a new TV show that turned out to be the #1 kids show in the world, put into 50 languages, called Lizzie McGuire. So one of us always had to be with him, but he's 32 now, and he'll always be in LA, and he enjoys what he does.
What brought you back here?
Our parents were getting older. We both lost our dads while we were gone. And our moms were the same age. So we felt it was responsible to come back. I had 2 children that were here, and it grew to 6 grandchildren. We felt it was, there's a certain point you need to be responsible to your family, and you need to come back. And then I had the opportunity to do a morning talk show with Ed Brantley. So it was all kind of coming together, and opportunity all of a sudden showed itself.
You've helped a lot of people. I'm one of the people that you believed in, invested in. What you don't know is that the way you lived your life represented possibility to me. You were somebody that was doing one thing but believed you could do multiple things, and you had the courage to try, right? And I watched you not only try, but I watched you strategize. Like, I remember you had rental properties, a sports team. I mean, as you were doing radio, you were on the air and selling.
Yes.
I'm sitting back and I'm going, this guy's a Swiss Army knife of possibility. So I always was amazed by that. So don't sleep on the fact that the way you've lived your life is inspiring to people.
Well,
it really is.
I appreciate that.
Kenny Chesney.
Yeah, Kenny.
Tell me that story.
Well, I've known Kenny since he was 12. And when I was on the air, he started calling me, and he was going to ETSU, and he said, man, I want to come and talk to you about country music. I think, this is something I really want to do. So I said, come on by the station. And he would come in the studio, and he would sit in there with me, and I thought he was going to stay for 15 minutes. 2 hours later, he's still there talking about music and asking questions. And because of the stature of WIBK, I could go into any record label in Nashville and talk to any president. I knew them all. So Kenny really loved country music, and he said, can you help me? He said, I'm going to quit college, and we're going to and I want to just move to Nashville. I said, man, the chances of making it in country music are somewhere between 0 and none. So you need to get that college degree, which he did. I said, after you do that, I'll be glad to help you. So with another person, Dr. Staley, a good friend of mine, we decided to put together Paradise Management, and we had 2 singers and songwriters. And I already had another business. I had a music publishing company in Nashville. So I said, I had him writing for us there. I went over to Nashville, and I found an apartment. I put everything in my name, the phone, the utilities, everything, and they moved in. And they went on for a couple of years. And I thought, magic might be able to happen there.
It did happen.
It did happen.
He's one of the biggest stars in the world.
I would go over there to Nashville twice a month, at least once a month, and I would sit with Kenny and go over songs and see what he'd been doing, make sure he was doing something. And we'd sit in that apartment and talk about music, and he kept saying to me, I never will forget this, and it inspired me as well. He'd say, Bob, I know I can do this. Even when it didn't sound like he could do it at all, I know I can do this. I heard that 12 times every trip. And that was inspiring. And that's why he is where he is today, because he knew he could do this.
Before you get away, describe for me the rules of possibility. You've done a lot of different things, from artist management, sports teams management, to being an on-air performer, Hollywood producer, father, friend, Politico. If somebody's watching this today and they're trying to figure out how to go from riding a bus, bumming a dual cassette to platinum albums, what are the rules of possibility?
Don't let anybody limit you, because we all have within us the ability to do many, many things. And if you believe you can do it, or you want to try to do it, there are people out there, if you have to keep looking for them, that will believe that as well with you. And I think that if you really have a dream you want to follow, if there's something you're burning to do, and this is the only life we get. Let's make everything we can make out of it, and follow that dream. Don't give up on it. Now then, I don't want anybody to think, of everything I've tried, 90% I failed in, okay? But the 10% were so
They're
great.
pretty good.
Yeah, they were pretty good. Absolutely.
Well, two things. One is thank you from the bottom of my heart. Publicly, personally, thank you. Number two, I love you. You have no earthly idea what you have meant and what you mean to me. So thank you for breakfast biscuits and belief. And I will see you on the radio.
That sounds great. Love you too, brother.